This is the deep dive into the descent of madness of Evan McMillan, also known as the Trapper, and how he came to work for the entity. It all started with his father, Archie McMillan. Archie was a powerful businessman who owned the McMillan family estate and a mining company, presumably having inherited these from his own father. At some point, Archie eventually married and had a son, Evan McMillan. Archie was incredibly cruel and abusive to his workers, forcing them to work long and hard hours for minimal pay. Evan felt a lot of sympathy towards the workers employed by his father, knowing firsthand how cruel his father could truly be. One day, Evan discovered that the workers were planning to fight back against the cruelty dealt to them by his father and form a union. Evan struggled on whether to tell his father or keep it a secret, as he considered the workers to be his friends. His father's cruelty towards him continued as Archie noticed Evan's sympathy towards the workers. One day he threw him to the ground, telling him how he should not treat the workers with kindness because if he gave them an inch they would take a mile. Evan reflected on this and how his father had broken his jaw a year prior. He decided to keep quiet about the union and the workers that he considered his friends to protect them from his father. In his free time in secret, Evan enjoyed sketching and drawing. While his father continued to try to break his spirit, trying to mold him into a version of himself so that he could break the spirits of the workers or his future wife himself when Evan one day inherited the business, Evan continued to draw in secret, his one defiance of his father. One day, Evan observed his father yelling at one of the workers. The poor worker was sick and wished to leave work early so that he could go home and rest. Archie refused, threatening to fire the man, which would ruin his life. Evan wished he could do something, but he didn't say anything, deciding to bide his time until the union was formed. Eventually, the worker collapsed from his sickness, and Archie kicked him in the stomach in anger, before ordering Evan to drag him outside. As Evan moved the worker, a wave of anger washed over him, and he became incredibly angry at the unconscious man, calling him a maggot and wanting to put him out of his misery. He snapped out of it suddenly, worrying that he was becoming more and more like his father. On one occasion, Evan and his father were setting up bear traps in the woods. Archie was always obsessed with hunting bears, and he began to tell Evan a story that he had told him many times before. Archie and his brother were out hunting one day when out of nowhere a bear attacked them. It attacked Archie's brother, Evan's uncle, tearing off his arm and eating his head. Archie violently attacked the bear before cutting it open and pulling the head out of the guts. Archie told Evan that he carried his brother's body 10 miles back to the house. Evan recalled that last time it was 5. Evan doesn't believe his father's story and thinks his father actually murdered his uncle. When Evan got home that evening, he drew his father in a bear suit, murdering his uncle. His uncle was a kind man who would have run the mining business with fair wages and all that socialist crap, as his father had put it. He knew deep down that his father killed his uncle, but he had no proof. He suspects these terrible things about his father, but he doesn't feel disgusted or ashamed. This was starting to worry him, and he wonders more about whether he is becoming like his father. One night, Evan was looming above his father's bed, watching him sleep. He hated him, and he loved him at the same time. He contemplated what life would be like without his father in it. He holds a huge rock up in the air, holding it above his father's head for minutes. He considers murdering his father right there, but slowly lowers the rock by his side. He contemplates his other options, mining accidents, hunting accidents, so many ways he could eliminate his father, but Evan can't bring himself to do it. Evan went back to his room and began to draw his father in the bear suit again, this time murdering Evan's mother, drowning her. He never believed the story his father told about her being swept away by a current and disappearing. His mother was beautiful, kind, and compassionate, but his father wouldn't let anyone get in the way of his business, not even family. Evan realized that in order to survive, he needed to be obedient to his father, but he was tired of it. He had other friends like the workers who encouraged him and really talked to him about things. It wasn't much later that Archie discovered that Evan was aware of what the workers were planning, and that he had kept it from him. Archie was furious with Evan. Evan came home one day to find his drawings torn to pieces. He managed to put them all back together except for one, the drawing of his mother being drowned. As his father entered the room, he prepared to be beaten or shouted at, but it never came. Instead, Archie reveals that his friends, the miners, sold him out. Evan stared at his father and felt nothing but hate. But not for Archie. He hated the maggots, the people who pretended to be his friend and then sold him out. For his father, he felt nothing but respect and admiration. The next day, Archie sent Evan into the mine with explosives. Evan led 100 men into the mines before detonating the explosives, sealing his friends inside to die. Archie didn't experience a much greater fate. He was found dead in the basement of his own warehouse, locked inside with no food or water. It is unknown what caused Evan to finally turn on his father. His father was made out to be a victim of Evan, as well as the murdered miners, which was one of the worst recorded mass murders ever. Evan was never seen again, despite extensive searches by the police trying to bring him to justice, having left to work with the entity in the trials. Unlike with some of the other killers, there isn't a lot of information about how the entity recruited Evan into the trials. Presumably he was taken by force or wandered into the fog unwittingly. The heavy scarring across his body and the hooks embedded in his skin were all a result of his continued attempts to revolt against the control of the entity, punishments for his recurring disobedience. This cycle of killing, rebelling, torture, and a return to killing is what truly forged Evan into what he would become. The young boy who liked to draw has long been a thing of the past, and now only the trapper remains.